This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave an update on the government's crime-fighting initiatives this morning.
For careful consideration, the selected zone was deemed to have met the first order criteria for being considered and declared a zone. And those first order criteria would be ongoing gang warfare, rampant criminality, escalating violence and murder, and a threat to rule of law. Several other communities, of course, would have been deemed as meeting the first order criteria. However, for strategic reasons which we will not disclose and we will not deliberate on, we have decided to declare DENHAM Town as the second zone of operations.
Security Minister Robert Montague was also present during the press briefing at Jamaica House. Mr. Montague told Parliament 2 weeks ago that there will be more plans rolled out to tackle crime.
At the National Police College, we are now up to 450 per batch, and we have signed an MOU with the University of the West Indies that will allow us to train every 6 months some 300 additional police officers. We are also in discussions with 2 community colleges to introduce a training program with them in an effort to increase the numbers of police officers on our streets.
A curfew was imposed in DENHAM Town, Kingston 14 at 5 this morning. It will remain in effect until 5 a.m. on Thursday. The first initiative, dubbed the Zones of Special Operations, was implemented on September 1 in Mount Salem and surrounding areas in St. James. It is scheduled to end on October 30. Approximately 7 weapons have been seized in the first ZOSO. 3 bills that seek to modernize methods of doing business in Jamaica were approved in the Senate. The bills are the Income Tax Amendment Act, the Stamp Duty Amendment Act, and the Transfer Tax Amendment Act. They will allow for the exemption of stamp duty and income and transfer tax on share buyback transactions involving listed companies. Piloting the bills, leader of government business, Senator KAMINA Johnson-Smith, said they are being amended to allow for a tax exemption for listed companies on the Jamaica Stock Exchange to repurchase their shares.
They are long awaited by the private sector or by listed companies who do wish the facilitation to be afforded by these provisions and the liquidity which it will introduce into the market, which of course stimulates economic activity.
Minister of Transport and Mining Mike Henry has given a directive to the board of the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, to work along with the unions representing the workers to immediately have meaningful engagements and to arrive at decisions related to overstaffing at the company. More in this report.
The Jamaica Urban Transit Company is reportedly overstaffed by 411 people. Mr. Henry reportedly ordered several management audits at the company, which led to its rolling out some 410 buses, coming from a low of 340 in November 2016. He also reported that moves are underway to improve service at the JUTC and to increase cost efficiency and maximize operations. Among the measures, a pilot program with New Fortress to switch from diesel to liquefied natural gas, LNG, which will result in a 28% reduction in the company's fuel bill, along with benefits to the environment. There is also to be a route rationalization exercise. The JUTC is analyzing non-performing routes with a view to removing its buses and putting them on more profitable ones. Another cost reduction measure being undertaken at the entity is a tracking system to monitor driver behavior, fuel, accidents, and personal injury claims.
Musician Neville O'Reilly Livingston, better known as Bunny Wailer, the only living member of the legendary Wailing Wailers band, was among the 257 Jamaicans who received national honors and awards yesterday at the annual awards ceremony held on the lawns of King's House in St. Andrew. He was conferred with the Order of Merit for his work in popular music. Jamaica's third highest national award after the Order of National Hero and the Order of the Nation. Both Bob Marley and Peter Tosh were posthumously awarded the Order of Merit. 80 honorees were from the Jamaica Defense Force, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Jamaica Fire Brigade, and the Department of Correctional Services. 5 Jamaicans received the Order of Jamaica, the fourth highest honor, among them world-renowned track and field coach Vincent Stephen Francis of MVP Track Club fame, and Anthony Hart for outstanding service in business, community, development, and humanitarianism. There were 44 appointees to the Order of Distinction Commander class from various areas of national life. Among them, Police Commissioner George Coelho for distinguished service to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, West Indies batsman Christopher Gill, and Heather Cook for service to the Houses of Parliament. In regional news, Jamaica's Finance Minister Audley Shaw, at a series of high-level strategy sessions convened in Washington, D.C., called for the launch of an emergency fund to rescue Caribbean countries affected by the recent series of hurricanes. More in this report.
In making the call, Mr. Shaw pointed out the fact that the hurricanes were unprecedented in their destructive force and the consequent damage to the productive and social infrastructure of several countries. Experts have estimated the damage to exceed 200% of GDP in some cases. The natural disasters caused significant suffering and hardship to the people of the affected countries. He urged the World Bank to use this as an opportunity to reconsider their policy that excludes some Caribbean countries from access to development financing by using limited criteria based on per capita income. That policy has also been adopted by major bilateral donors. It fails to take into account the extreme vulnerability of the Caribbean countries to shocks from natural disasters and economic volatility.
3 weeks since Category 5 Hurricane Maria ripped through Dominica, the United Nations Migrations Agency says housing is the most urgent need for the island. Jean-Philippe Antolin, head of response operations in the Caribbean for the United Nations International Organization for Migration, says an estimated 23% of the small Caribbean nations' homes have been flattened. Another 39% of the houses sustained severe damage, and a further 28% have been affected to some degree. More than 2,000 Dominicans are still living in shelters, others staying with relatives and friends. The board of directors of the Trinidad and Tobago-owned Caribbean Airlines has appointed Garvin Madeira as the new chief executive officer. Madeira was formerly the chief executive officer of Digital Play. The board of directors also expresses its sincere gratitude to the former chief executive officer, Captain Jagmohan Singh, and the executive management team. The airline board says it looks forward to the innovation and collective capabilities that are to be developed under the leadership of the new CEO. And in Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro's supporters won 17 of 23 state governorships in Sunday's elections. The United States has branded the elections neither free nor fair. The U.S. State Department says ballot papers had been manipulated and polling stations moved, quote, without public notice, end quote. The opposition Democratic Union Roundtable Coalition has also alleged fraud and refused to recognize the result. Meanwhile, President Maduro hailed the landslide as a victory for Chavismo, his party's brand of socialism named after former President Hugo Chavez. And those were the regional and local stories. Do stay with us. Sports is next. In sports, Trinidad and Tobago's women became the first indoor volleyball team from the English-speaking Caribbean to ever qualify for a world championship. The Caribbean champions punched their tickets to the biggest tournament in the sport after the Olympic Games with a commanding 25-19, 25-16, 25-22 triumph over Costa Rica in the North, Central America and Caribbean Women's Continental Championships. Sri Lanka have decided to play in Pakistan for the first time since their team bus was attacked in Lahore in 2009. The two teams are slated to square off in a 2020 international on Sunday, October 29. Cricket teams stopped visiting Pakistan after the attack by gunmen, which left 8 people dead, including 6 policemen. Several Sri Lanka players and coaches were also injured. And kicking over to football, Northern Ireland will play Switzerland in the World Cup playoffs as they aim to qualify for next summer's tournament in Russia and a first finals since 1986. According to the BBC, Michael O'Neill's side will be home at Windsor Park for the first leg. The Republic of Ireland have been drawn against Denmark. Italy will play Sweden, while Croatia will face Greece. The first legs will be played between November 9 and 11, with the second legs between November 12 and 14. British professional boxer Anthony Joshua will defend his IBF, that's the International Boxing Federation, and WBA heavyweight world titles against Carlos Takam after Kabrat Pulev withdrew through injury. Pulev suffered a shoulder injury in sparring with Takam, the next in line. The fight is scheduled for October 28 at Cardiff's Principality Stadium with more than 70,000 tickets already sold. It will be Joshua's first fight since stopping Vladimir Klitschko at Wembley Stadium in April, adding the WBA title to the IBF belt he claimed in 2016. Promoter Eddie Hearn says having prepared meticulously for the style and height of Pulev, he now faces a completely different style and a challenge in Takam. And that's it for sports, but do stay with us. The weather report is next. This is PBCJ's weather report. Thanks so much for staying with us. A tropical wave just west of Jamaica and a trough across the central Caribbean. That's the forecast, and the trough is expected to linger across the area for the next few days. Today, we can expect widely scattered showers and thunderstorms across sections of most parishes, and of course, an average temperature between 30 and 33 degrees Celsius. In our current conditions, we look to Kingston, where the temperature is just about 31 degrees Celsius. We can expect a maximum temperature in Kingston tonight at 32 degrees Celsius. Over there in Montego Bay, St. James, we're expecting a maximum temperature of 33 degrees Celsius, but it's just about 31 degrees Celsius right now with humidity at 75%. Tonight, we can expect partly cloudy conditions with an average temperature between 24 and 27 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, we'll have a partly cloudy morning across eastern parishes, then widely scattered showers across central and western parishes. In the regional forecast, we're expecting some showers in the eastern end of the Caribbean tomorrow, and we're also expecting scattered showers over there in Cuba. The average temperature should be between 29 and 32 degrees Celsius across the Caribbean. And that's it for the weather report. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.
Brand new series called with Sonia coming soon. I'll be speaking to influential guys that nothing is impossible.